Well, it's a nice 39 degrees in Minneapolis, Minnesota, just in time for some April baseball for the Houston Astros making their first road trip. I guess it's not yesterday, at least, on the weather report. This is Mission Control, and we are here to talk about the first series of the Houston Astros in 2023 and looking forward into this first road trip of 2023. Currently, the Astros are sitting 3-4. Not ever great having a losing record, but you know, it's a 7-game sample size, so we'll pump the brakes a little bit. There is a +3 run differential, and we ended the homestand with a nice little slugging performance, so hopefully that kind of wakes up the bats a little bit. Hopefully they don't go cold in the Minneapolis weather. Around the division, the Angels and the Rangers both had pretty good starts to their year. They are both 4-2. And then Oakland and Seattle have had kind of rough starts. They both have 2 wins. But yeah, everything is so close together right now. Opening weekend, it is what it is. The Astros were supposed to play Minnesota last night or yesterday, and that was postponed due to inclement weather. That's how you pronounce that word, inclement. And they will resume that series today, here in a few hours. They are taking on the Twins for a 3-game set and then traveling over to Pittsburgh for a 3-game set. Kind of, I guess not really a fun note, or not like a strange or anything like that, but no night games on this. We are 3 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 5:30, 5:30, 11:30. So no 7 o'clock starts, which means I should be able to watch all of them before bedtime, which is nice. Just a couple injury updates. There's not a whole lot of changes here, but just some notes that I have picked up from a week or so of the season. Jose Altuve keeps changing his cast and his brace like every single day that he shows up on television from the dugout. I think they're still pretty optimistic on his timeline. Going back to injury date was March 22nd, and so still looking at that 8 to 10 week window. Probably still thinking June by the time he gets to Major League Club. Maybe that first week in June. But yeah, there seems to be no setbacks or anything like that. He seems to be doing Jose Altuve things in the dugout still. Lance McCullers has started throwing from 90 feet and should progress to back-to-back days of throwing soon, if not already. And then hopefully after a few rounds of that, kind of testing the arm out, he'll get to a mound, maybe throw some bullpens, maybe some late April bullpens for Lance, and then be able to start a minor league rehab assignment. I know that he was still pretty optimistic about being able to get to 150 innings. I don't know if 150 is realistic, but if he's able to get back onto a mound soon and start a rehab assignment, anything could happen. Michael Brantley returned to Florida after the first few days of like the ring ceremonies and whatnot against the White Sox in the opening series. Should be continuing his rehab on the shoulder and gear up for more baseball activities. I think they're hoping that he can start his minor league rehab sometime this month, which would be nice. Just be able to get another lefty bat and back into the order with someone that has some high leverage bat control type of mindset. Obviously, the White Sox came into Houston, split 2-2. I said last on the kind of the pilot episode of this that the White Sox are probably the most talented team in the AL Central. From a talent, just a pure talent perspective, I still think that. Their starting pitching looked really good. Dylan Cease is that guy for a reason for them. Expect him to maybe lead the American League in strikeouts, like he has that kind of potential. And then Detroit came into Minute Maid after a rough first series for them, but was able to take the first 2 of 3. The bats for Houston were kinda ugly. But we lost the first game to Detroit 6-7, competitive game, scored 6 runs, lost 6-3, and then we won 8-2. And I think that 8-2 victory, we had more extra base hits in that one game than we had in the rest of the games combined, I think was like the note I saw. That could be a little off, but It definitely kind of felt like the extra base hits weren't finding their way into the Houston box score, but seeing Jeremy Pena kind of break out of his slump that he had going with a home run was nice. Chas McCormick pulled a home run, which never happened, so that was fun. So yeah, I think the bats will be just fine. You know, top of the lineup, I mentioned Pena, but Bregman had a rough start to his homestand as well. In terms of results, I thought both guys still had pretty productive ABs at times. There were some hard hit baseballs that just didn't find grass. Bregman had worked a handful of walks. I think had produced a sac fly at one point. Pena, I thought, had a pretty nice opening day, maybe even the first 2 days, and then went on like an 0-16. But seeing him kind of break out of that and get his first home run of the season was nice. The two lefties, man, Jordan and Tucker, this opening homestand, they took care of business. They carried the load offensively for sure. Probably both are poised to, continue their offensive successes, I guess you could say. After the first 7 games, they both have an OPS over 1 dot. So, on base and slugging, those guys are getting it done. Tucker currently has 3 home runs to start the year, stole a base or 2 as well. So, that 30-30 mark might be within reach after all. And then the new addition in the middle might not have had his power surge yet, but Jose Abreu, man, he's put on some timely hitting, some 2-strike approaches, drove in a few runs, and he's putting the ball in play and getting on base and getting base hits. And sometimes when you're sandwiched between Alvarez and Tucker, that's a pretty good thing to be able to do. And so I've been, I don't want to say like surprised, because like that's not the right word. That's kind of exactly what I expected of Abreu. But like it's been nice seeing him do that early on. He's the kind of guy that he'll take kind of a weird first hack, and you're like, man, what was that swing? And then he's like calibrating for like that curveball that's going to be like a 2-2 curveball that he's going to fight off, and he's going to poke it into right field, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Just missed a home run off the wall, and then hit one deep into center field that would have been gone in Chicago, but was not gone in Minute Maid. So yeah, I'm not worried about him finding, the Crawford boxes will come for him. It's not, it's just a matter of time for some of the power strokes get in there. But having him in the middle of those two guys and providing quality at bats and putting the ball in play, love to see it. Through the first homestand, the Astros are managing to score 4.9 runs per game, which is actually up from last year when they were averaged 4.5, 4.5. But again, small sample size. The goal is, outscoring your opponent every day, and so not necessarily finding the average on just a 7-game set, but a 1-0 win is just as good as a 5-2 win. But at the end of the day, seeing the runs up a little bit, nice. Last year, 4.5 was enough for 106 wins with this team. So if we can score even a little bit more, that'd be even nicer, right? I did see this note, and I wanted to give just a quick shout out to it. And former first base coach Rich Dower, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. I could be totally wrong on that. Suffered a stroke a while back, has had some severe brain injuries because of it. He is currently rehabbing in Florida, in a medical facility there. And there has been a GoFundMe page started to help the family with expenses. Apparently, it's been kind of like a 6-month ordeal so far, and expected to continue to grow in their financial kind of hole that this has put them in. And so, anyone that could help out with that. He's a guy who played for the Baltimore Orioles, won a World Series with the Orioles, I believe, and coached for a long time around baseball, and he ended his career coaching. He was the first base coach for the Astros, like 15, 16, and 17, I think. So, a lot of love in the baseball community, I think, for this guy. And yeah, it's you never want to see that for anybody, but there has been a GoFundMe page started by the family to help with the expenses for him, and hopefully he recovers well off of it. I mentioned earlier Minnesota for 3 games, Pittsburgh for 3 games. I did have Minnesota penciled in as my sneaky winner in the AL Central, even though I didn't think they were the most talented team in the Central. I think realistically, they're probably 3rd in talent in terms of overall makeup, maybe 2nd, depends on how you kind of grade out the Guardians. And then Pittsburgh for 3. It would be really nice to take 2 out of 3 in Minnesota and then go to Pittsburgh and get a clean sweep in Pittsburgh. I think from a talent perspective and roster perspective, you could see that. But Pittsburgh did go into Boston and sweep Boston. So, Pittsburgh's playing inspired baseball right now. Brian Reynolds just got our SFC Player of the Week, offensively speaking, for his hot start to the year. So neither one of these teams is an easy team to take on, especially on the road. Like, there's no easy things on the road. But it would be nice to get back into a full winning way on this road trip. I mentioned earlier McCormick pulled a home run to left field. That was just his 4th home run that he's pulled. All of his the rest of his home runs in his career have been like opposite field. I think it's 4 out of 29 are pull home runs, and so 25 center field to opposite field. Just a fun little aside. Alvarez, Abreu, Tucker, the majority 3-4-5 through the first 7 games, all hitting over 300, which is nice to see. McCormick also has taken 3 steals in this opening homestand. Fromber and Javier both made their 2nd starts. They both have pitched pretty well, I think. I don't give a ton of pitching insight until probably the 3rd or 4th start. I think sometimes you have to feel like how they're going to take on certain lineups or have a game plan for certain people. But they both made their 2nd starts. They both have made really good pitches. Fromber's got, I think, 13 Ks in 12 innings, so he's actually kind of striking out, more than one an inning, which is always fun to see. And Christian mixing in a few more curveballs, it looked like, in that 2nd start. And so, for a guy that is very fastball slider dominant, fastball dominant, and then slider's been the primary off speed off of it. Being able to show more of that tertiary kind of pitch, I think it just makes him better in the long run. So happy to see how that matures, I guess, throughout his next few starts. From a lineup perspective, man, watching Chaz in center field, I think, has been kind of better for us so far, in my personal opinion. I think he's kind of played the field a little bit cleaner. He's made some good plays out there. And offensively, I think he's just a little bit more polished, bringing a little bit more to the plate right now. Another guy whose plate approach I really like, David Hensley, so far, in his small sample last year, the spring this year, and so far in this opening homestand. I think he's good enough as a second baseman replacement for Altuve currently. But between second base and DH, I really like David Hensley in our lineup at this time. And so I'd like to see him, play there more often. And I tell you what, the young catcher Salazar, I really enjoyed watching him behind the plate. I know he didn't get a hit during his debut game, but I thought behind the dish he was a clean operator back there for the most part. And Yainer, I think, is behind Salazar in terms of receiving and working the strike zone. I'm not out on Diaz. I think Yainer Diaz has a lot of things that he can contribute still, but I was very pleased, I think, with watching Salazar in his first game with the glove. I think he was wearing Maldonado's black All-Star glove back there too. That was something I caught. But yeah, and that's kind of the opening weekend recap, I guess, for the Astros, injury updates and overall news. You know, we're doing kind of what I thought we would do. I expected a White Sox split, and I was hoping we would get a sweep of Detroit at home, and they almost swept us. But you know, the bats woke up, got some extra base hits that final game, and so that was good to see. Going into this Twins and Pittsburgh series, you know, if we could take 2 out of 3 in Minnesota and get a clean sweep in Pittsburgh, I think you all of a sudden are going, okay, this is the team that is number 1 in the power ranks. But you know, I think this 6-game set that we're going on, if you go 3-3 on the road on a 6-game road trip, you're not mad at it. So I won't be mad at it. But obviously we're hoping for a little better result than a 3-3 split. So we'll see how it goes. This is Mission Control signing off.